So let me tell you about the crack era and some of the things I remember. I was a kid at the time. When it first started, I was still in elementary school. And I grew up in Crown Heights. I grew up on Franklin Avenue. Franklin between Park Place and Sterling. Some of the best memories of my life, man. 734 Franklin Avenue. We lived on the 4th floor. And that was the top floor in the building. So I would look out the window and see a lot of things happening. And going to school in that neighborhood. The elementary school I went to was around the corner from the apartment. And the building next to us, unfortunately, was full of crackheads. So they would venture over into our building. And we had a few crackheads living in our building as well. But, you got to remember, you got to see. At that time, what I think people don't understand is that when crack hit, this is the early 80s, and this ran up until around the early 90s. When the crack era hit, everybody, damn near everybody was smoking crack. It was so common that when I found out my mother wasn't smoking crack, I was surprised. Like, oh, you don't smoke crack? I know that's crazy, but it was just happening so much, and I was seeing so much of it that I thought it was just I thought it was like cigarettes, or weed. And to me, weed didn't seem that bad. So I thought it was just as recreational as weed or cigarettes. And I didn't realize that crack was a whole nother monster until one day I was coming home from school and I saw this crackhead searching the ground. And I'm like, what the hell is he looking for? Because this guy was really down on the ground, just picking everything up, dropping it, picking it up, dropping it. And then he found what he was looking for, which was his crack vial. Like, he dropped his crack. Crack would come in these little plastic vials. If you've seen the movie New Jack City, is pretty much, they got it right, in terms of what it looked like or how they packaged it. And he picked it up, and like, he was already on the ground, and he just kind of got on his knees and held both his hands up and was like, thank you, Lord. Thank you, God. Thank you. And I'm like, this guy is really thanking the Lord because he found his piece of crack. Wow. It was kind of mind blowing. And this is me on my way home from school. So I get home that day and everybody's talking about what went on last night. Like, my uncles and a couple of the guys from the neighborhood were all like upstairs in the hallway when I got upstairs. And they were all talking about something that happened last night. I kind of came in on the conversation, walked in on it. And I'm standing there. I think I probably was in like 5th grade. So I'm quietly listening because I don't want to make my presence known, because they're going to tell me to go inside or mind my business, So I'm just kind of standing there ear hustling. And one of the guys, a guy named Trevor, he says, yeah, man, Jason moms could really suck dick. And one of the other guys was like, oh, she sucked my dick last week. That ain't nothing. You got to get the sister Teresa. Now, Teresa, that bitch made me come in 2 seconds. And my mind is blown. I'm like, huh? And then one of the other guys was like, yo, I can't believe they sucking dick for crack out here. So a few weeks later, I'm laying in bed. Now, the way the apartment was set up, let me tell you that really quickly. They had what we refer to in New York City here with railroad apartments. And it would basically mean it was a really long apartment with, a lot of rooms. And it went from the front of the building to the back of the building. A lot of apartments are cut off now, but it went from, so if you had a front window, you had a view of the backyard, and a lot of apartments aren't set up that way anymore. So my bed was in the front room. Like, my mom had given me the front part of the apartment because we had so much space. And I had 2 younger brothers. My mom, my stepdad, they were in the back of the house, and I was in the front. I'm the oldest son I'm the oldest kid, period, right? But I'm in the front, and my bed was near the door. Now, where the door was set up, when we lived on the fourth floor, if you looked out the peek hole on the door, you could see the roof steps. See, every apartment had two entrances. So you had a front door and a back door. So you would see the steps leading to the roof. And I'm laying in bed one night and I hear moaning. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Somebody's having sex right outside my door on the steps. I look out the peek hole and I see one of my friend's mom. And the guy got her bent over, hitting it from the back, and he stops and she starts to give him head, and I'm like, that's Day-Day mother, that's what's going through my head. Like, that is my homie Day-Day, that's his mom's. This is crazy. Like, what's her name? I can't remember her name, but we, as to be polite, like if somebody's name was Teresa, we'd say Miss Teresa, or Miss Betty, like, so just out of respect, but I can't remember what her name was. So let's just call her Miss Jane. So a couple of days later, I'm at Day-Day's house and there's Miss Jane. I walk in and she's like, hey, how you doing? You want something to drink? And I'm like, no. You hungry? I'm good. Because I'm looking, you was looking, like that's what's going through my head. Like, I saw you, what I'm saying? But she didn't know that I knew what her get down. And this is my homie that I play Nintendo with. So it was just like really weird being in that space. Like you here chilling with your homie, but then when you go home at night, his mother's creeping around your building, turning tricks for crack. This is just crazy. And it became more common. I started to see some of everybody's mother or sister or aunt, and sometimes even grandmother in my building sucking dick or having sex for crack. It was the craziest thing, but it just kind of became normal after a while. So everybody was doing it, and it's like, okay, it's just what it is. Crackheads suck dick for money. They would proposition me. They's like, when do you get your allowance? Friday? All right, well, meet me on the roof at this time and I'll suck your little dick. And it was that kind of shit. Yeah. And a lot of my friends was out there in the mix. I was kind of scared. I hadn't had sex yet and I was nervous, so I didn't know what to expect. But I'm not gonna act like a crackhead or two ain't feel me up when I was a kid. They was trying to get me to go up on that roof with him. I'm scared to death, though. And I was really scared of my mom as well, because she was vicious. So a couple of years later, crack had really taken a hold of the streets all over America. Like, it was all on the news. Reagan was in office. Nancy, what's his name? Nancy Reagan, right? Her name, the first lady, Nancy Reagan. She started this whole Just Say No campaign, and they were fighting against drugs and the war on drugs and all this. So it was a big thing. It was really political. The policing was extremely heavy. They had TNT, that stood for Technical Narcotic Task Force, that was deployed in the inner cities and all over the place, and they would run up in spots and be arresting a gang of folk all at once. It was, it was a lot going on, and you were seeing all of this play out in front of you, and it almost became normal. And the violence rose because there was so much money making at the time. Like, truck jewelry was a thing, big rope chains with anchors on them, and it was just crazy. Money, Dapper Dan's was in full effect. The rappers was all going to Dapper Dan's, getting their outfits made. And if you had an outfit from Dapper Dan's, like, you was, as they say now, you was lit. You know what I'm saying? So everybody was trying to get that money, and crack was selling itself, basically. So if you got into it, it wasn't, was no big deal. So obviously the violence started. So I'm going to school one morning. This is like 7 a.m. and I leave out like a seventh grader. So if you have kids and they're in seventh grade, like, okay, picture your child going through this. So I leave out of the building, and I get like to the corner, and there's two Jamaican dudes across the street arguing. And one of them is pretty adamant about the fact that he wants his money. And he kept telling the dude, like, yo, I want my money tonight. Let me try to recreate it for you real quick. It was like, pussy wall, I want my blood clot money tonight. Anyhow, me no get me things. I dead, you dead, pussy. and the dude is like, stop, me have it for you, man. Don't worry yourself, man. Me give you your money. And the dude, I guess he just didn't buy it. So he's like, you think I'll joke me and make what, don't know? He pulled out his gun and shoots the guy in the leg. So pop! And the dude grabs his leg, he's screaming. And he was like, anyhow, me see you tonight and you don't have my money. Gunshot in your blood clot head. And just stands there. And this is 7 o'clock in the morning. You know, people going to work, kids going to school, and you know, a couple of people ran, but most people didn't. They just kept walking like they didn't see it. And the dude that got shot, he just flagged the cab down that was coming up the block and just jumped in it and left. I guess he went to the hospital, I don't know. But the guy that shot him was just standing there. He didn't run, it was like, and what? Like some real gangster shit. Like, I shot him, and what? And I walked to school with that on my mind. So now I'm supposed to go and and be a regular functioning young kid at school now after I just seen somebody shoot someone right in front of my face. It was just like, okay. So let's fast forward to the end of the day. I'm on my way home, you know. I braved the streets of being on the other side of Eastern Parkway because that was a thing at that time. Like the people that lived over there didn't really hang out with the people that lived on my side of Eastern Parkway. So I navigated those waters and made it back to our side safe. And I get to my corner and I see a lot of the guys that live on my block, some older, some younger. They're all standing there talking. That it was a Chinese restaurant on the corner and everyone's just kind of standing there talking. And I walk in on the conversation and one of the guys was like, yeah, told that bitch she had to give me my money back. You know, the fuck? You ain't make me come, bitch. You got to give me my money. And everyone is laughing. Like they are cracking up like the way this guy's telling the story. And I walk up and now, you know how laughter is contagious. So I'm laughing. I'm like, what you talking about? What's going on? Who y'all talking about? And this guy is going in like, yeah, bitch tried to run over my money. I grabbed that bitch by her neck. I dug in her fucking pocket and got my money. And everybody is just cracking up. Like you would have thought this dude was doing stand-up because they were really laughing. Now, this is an older kid too. So let's say, if I was, however old you are when you in 7th grade, let's say this kid might have been in 10th, 11th grade. And then I'm like, who y'all talking about? This nigga looks at me and he says, your aunt, nigga. The rage I felt in that moment. Like, it was funny when it was just some random crackhead, but now that it's my aunt, it wasn't funny. I started swinging. I'm swinging. Okay, and everybody is trying to grab me. And now this is a big kid, and he's swinging back, all I'm thinking is, if I could jump up on him, and this is going to sound crazy, right? But I said, if I could jump up on him, I could bite his fucking nose off. Like, this is literally what I'm thinking, So, if they break it up, a couple of adults come out and they grab me and tell me to go upstairs. And, my mom was at work. She didn't get in until after 5. So I'm pissed. So now I go upstairs and my aunt is in my grandmother's apartment. So I go in the door and I'm mad and I'm crying and everybody's like, what's going on? What happened? And my aunt comes out and I look at her and I'm like, it's you shaming us. You out here sucking dick. You shaming our family. And everybody's like, watch your mouth, boy. Who you think you talk to? And I'm like, tell her to stop sucking dick. It's like, It's funny now, but in the moment, it was some super sad shit. And it made me look at the whole crack thing different and how it was turning people's families out. Now it had hit home. You know, one of my aunts was out there turning tricks just like I had previously seen some of my friends' moms out there doing it. And, you know, if you know, for men, they would sell shit. For women, they would sell their ass. So I seen some of their fathers out there, the ones that were still there, because you know how the community was at the time. There's a lot of stepdad shit going on. So the men that were there were selling shit out the house. You know, they're selling everything right up from under their families. Shit, you wake up, the TV ain't there no more. You reach for the remote, you be like, what the fuck? What the TV? Like, that nigga done sold that shit. So it was a lot of that going on. And then I started to really sit up and take note on how it had a stranglehold on the community. And I started to move different. I started to become select in who I hung out with and who I talked to. And eventually I started to feel like, well, if everybody doing it, I'm gonna get some of this money too. Fuck it. But I'll tell you that story another day. Anyway, my aunt, you know, she approached the guy about talking about her on the street like that or whatever. But like, I mean, she tried to make us feel better. She came back and like, oh, you know, I talked to him, I set him straight, but the damage was already done. Like, you know, you out here sucking dick. You know, and I'm not trying to speak disparagingly of my aunt. At this point, she's passed away, so may God rest her soul. But it was just one of those lessons. But I'll tell you more about this part of my life going forward. I know this is probably surprising to some of you who know me personally. And you just, some of the things you come from, you just, man, you keep it to yourself. But yeah, and believe me, that was just the tip of the iceberg. But yeah, man, I saw a lot of my friends' parents out there either selling stuff or selling their ass, and then I'd be in their house that weekend playing Nintendo, and it was just crazy. So yeah.